Hello everybody and welcome back to the Scottish Open, and this time it is going to be Chang Bingyu against Kyren Wilson at the last 16. So after having Mark Selby as, quite a remarkable win over Nippon St-Com, now let's see if Wilson is going to be able to put a similar sort of performance against Chang here, which hasn't actually managed to make it into the final of the Judgment Day of the qualification in UK Championship, so it was only one step away there from the appearance at the Triple Crown event this season. And of course, ultimately, Wilson was able to get one round ahead of him, with him reaching the first round, of course, as the world number 2. But losing out to Elias Lesser, and he's been playing really well in the opening 2 rounds. But as I say, I think those are the sort of matches, especially in the first to 4 format, which are really going to test Wilson's form right now. And the first long shot is going to be his for the taking. And takes that one nicely. And beautifully set up there, just about the right side of the blue. And that way he's not going to have too much work to do. Just try and push the cue ball onto the right side cushion. And have that one to bounce away there onto the red. Well, I think in the end I was surprised to see that. But Wilson decided to go for another approach. Just trying to play the cue ball through this shot and get himself lined up for this red to be taken into the left corner. Now then, if he tries to play this one with a bit of power, you can try and get the black to be freed up. And he's played the shot nicely as long as he's going to be on the black. And he's going to have the cue ball set up perfectly for the black ball cushion. That way it is going to make the shot slightly tricky there for him. And of course, in terms of, you can get the black in, no problem, but it's all about just trying to get on the next red there, which is actually going to be a significant issue for Wilson. Chang nearly made it into the quarterfinal of the Saudi Arabia Masters before losing out to Ronnie O'Sullivan, which of course has gone on to beat Kyren Wilson in that quarterfinal match. So these two could have met each other a lot sooner into this season, but in the end it is going to be 14 points scored there by Wilson, and he wasn't able to get the white into the zone, which would have allowed him to actually go for any of those reds to be taken. So in the end just plays one into the other there, but Wilson didn't actually play a good safety shot out there, because he's going to leave a couple of those reds over the right corner pocket for Chang Bingyu. And Chang is going to have a look to see if he's going to be able to go for one of them. I think the one is closer to the corner pocket should make slightly more sense there for him. That way, he's got 2 cushion escape for the cue ball to try and make his way onto the black. And I think he was able to play the shot really nicely. And getting the cue ball through the shot in a way which is not going to leave him hampered by that red. And he can freely take this black into the left corner. So he's going to have 2 more reds after this one that he can try and take with the black, and ultimately put himself just a couple of points ahead. But still at least be the man trying to set the pace up of this matchup to Kyren Wilson. And lovely little shot there for him, because he always knew that that red was going to be there for him onto the right corner. So that way he's trying to get the cue ball onto the main back of those reds. And he's going to have a perfect setup there for himself to have an early chance of taking this opening frame away from Wilson, after it looked like Kyren was going to be the player to have the first chance, running himself into a slight problem there with the black. And he's going to try and take this black into the left corner right now. I mean, it is going to be a fine position there for him, as long as he makes a little tweaks along the way. Now 16 points is going to be scored there by Chang. He's going to be able to just stun the cue ball onto this black once again for the left corner to be taken. That way he'll leave himself up room to try and get in behind that red for the right middle for good measure. Or you can always try and make his way onto the black ball cushion, have the cue ball to bounce away and play the same red, not into the right middle but onto the left corner. For now though, 24 points was going to be the minimum that he should have scored, having 3 reds perfectly available that he could have taken with the black. Right now he's going to have a red set up onto the left middle, so plays this one with trace off backspin, and Puts this shot onto the cushion once again. Has the cue ball cannon perfectly onto the black. And 25 points, so 11 points is the advantage there. One thing I will say for Kyren has to be leading there, because when he hasn't been leading so far this season, he does seem to struggle of actually coming from behind and coming back into those matches. And once again, he says that he's going to struggle if Chang Bingyu is going to play shots like that. Brilliant little cannon onto the main bunch of reds, and he's still going to have a lovely little angle to try and take the main one of them into the left corner. So, of course, apart from those 14 points scored from Kyren Wilson, he has been a maximum break being made there by Chang. Looking to make it 5 reds and 5 blacks now. And, well, with the way the remaining reds are actually set up there for him, I wouldn't actually say that it's going to be a problem for him to try and make his way onto the frame-winning break here. Although he still has to make his way through the couple of reds being in the way of each other. So maybe just being on the left-hand side of the table is going to help. Have one of those reds to be taken into the right middle. That way he's going to have a prime chance of getting away from Wilson here. And, well, he's underplayed this shot slightly. Let's see if he's going to be able to just stretch for this red to be taken into the right corner. I think he might be, but once again, he wasn't really planning to go for that shot approach anyway, because that way he has to play the shot with power, and getting the extension on the cue, it's not going to help his chances really. Now 26 points is going to be the advantage here. So, well, I mean, he managed to play this shot really nicely because him applying just about enough of the backspin. There was a gap in between those reds, which he managed to get the cue ball onto. It's now set up perfectly for the black to be taken, with the match of Chipchoinu and Jianjun being over already. So probably have to assume that Jianjun managed to take that win away there from Chipchaya, leaving Snookers in the 5th frame. And after the player from Thailand managed to take the opening frame quite comfortably, it was the Chinese player that managed to take 4 frames on the bounce, it would seem. Now then, can we see the perfect start for another Chinese player against the man from England, former world champion, back from a couple of seasons ago. For now, though, it is going to be Chang Bingyu with the first 50-plus break. If he manages to roll the blue into the left middle. Got lined up on that one a bit straight, and underrun therefore for those reds to be taken into the right corner. So has to go for a stretch once again. And, I mean, you can try and take this red away there onto the left corner. Plays this one with topspin, and off the side cushion, lined up for the black once again. So 41 points advantage there for Chang, with 67 points on the table. He can still try and make this break, the one that actually gets him over the line, and still gets him that win that you'll be looking for. Plays the black with the trace of topspin once again there, trying to set himself up for a shot onto the left middle. And you can see there was a little jump there on the previous shot before he was able to get on that black, and still managed to control the cue ball position just about enough there. And, well, barring 2 shots there, it should be frame taken to Chang Bingyu, because you know, if he makes the blue in, he's going to have a gap of 54 points or so. That way, if he gets the second shot of this little sequence, he'll be 51 points sort of left out on the table, with 55 being the advantage. So it does look like the first real chance is going to be taken beautifully there by Chang. And problems for Kyren Wilson are going to start to appear there, because we haven't seen there against Pang Juk-soo in the second round. But we have seen what Chang Bingyu can do, of course, beating Stephen Maguire and Si Xiaowei himself. So talk about the World Championships. Si Xiaowei still looking to find that form, which has actually got him into the semi-final appearance of the 2023 World Championship, where one of the ultimate comebacks was produced by Luca Brissell. But right now it is going to be Chang Bingyu's story in the opening frame, and a lovely little break of 77 points and counting. So still getting himself for this black to be taken onto the right corner. Plays a bit of a shot with backspin now, so it's clearly trying to go for this red to be taken into the right corner. And 70 points is the advantage. So as I say, of course, century is going to be possible to be made through those two reds, taking with the black. But of course, you don't have to do that. You can always just take the black on one of them and take the blue with the second one. It'll just force you to play the shot on the yellow for you to be over the line and get a century break on the board. Lovely little shot there once again there from Chang. He was trying to get the cue ball as close to that red as possible. And I think he can just about drop this red onto the left middle. It's going to be a chance there for him. Just try and play this shot through the cue ball. Once again, wants to be the right side of the blue there for him to try and get onto the top part of the table. Manages to get the red in nicely. The crowd acknowledging that. And it is going to be the break of 98 points. So, shot for the century break. And of course, it is remarkable where you had the break of 14 points scored by Wilson. That we're going to see a potential total clearance of 125 points being made by Chang Bingyu. But certainly, he's going to be the perfect response. So, you know, all he took is one bad safety being played by Kyren Wilson. And that time it looked like it was very much a closed-off position that he's given away. But Chang Bingyu was able to develop it brilliantly. And now he's off to a flying start there against the Warrior. The man from China who's already managed to make headlines. And, 147, brilliant break against Stephen Maguire at the UK Championship, which I have mentioned previously. Still lost out on in the decider. But, I'm pretty sure that he will take that, making a maximum and missing out by just one frame. Once again, of course, he's still going to be in chance there for a bonus if he is to make that 147 once again at the qualifiers for the World Championship. He's not going to appear at the Masters, but I'm not being at the same level that he will be required. But he certainly is going to be at the level to try and challenge Kyren Wilson right now, because it is going to be the break of 125 points made by Chang Bingyu, and it's going to get him over the line in the opening frame. It is Kyren Wilson 0 and Chang Bingyu 1. Going into frame number 2, blinking you'll miss him. It's not Ronnie O'Sullivan, it is Chang Bingyu, but you can see why Ronnie and Ding are going to be so popular in China, because that's clearly the way that the majority of the Chinese players are trying to take their game onto. You look at the likes of Zhao Xingtong, Wu Yi's a Li Bei fan, Si Zhaoyi himself, and now of course Chang Bingyu with the way that he tries to play the game. And when he's in with a chance, you better make sure you're comfortable in your chair, because you're not getting out of it for the foreseeable future. And Kyren Wilson would know that very, very well after the opening frame. He now trails by a single frame there to Chang Bingyu. But at these stages, as I say, with it being first to 4 format, you can't really afford to be giving easy frames away there, especially with Wilson having an early chance in that frame, not being able to take it, and only producing the break of 14 points at that stage. And he's going to be Chang Bingyu to pounce on that mistake. And of course, Wilson still could have played a better safety shot, but instead he's left the red over the right corner pocket. Chang Bingyu was able to take that one. And as I say, that was barely a shot that you can call a long shot or a difficult shot there, but he was able to sort of make the remaining 30 shots or so relatively easy there for the simple cue ball control and the positional play that he's managed to execute to absolute perfection. Now then, let's see if we are going to have a response from the Warrior, because even though we have seen a couple of convincing breaks there for him in the opening 2 rounds, we haven't actually seen him coming back from being sort of a couple of frames down. Let's see if that's going to be the case right now. He was up against Yao Gang, and he was up against Pen Jingsu, as I say. He was able to win both of those matches by 4 frames to 1, but has actually made some mistakes in all of those matches. And, if he is, of course, to have the same victory now over the third Chinese player, he has to make 4 frames on the bounce. He's capable of doing that, but it's going to be difficult to do it against the informed Chang Bingyu. Now then, let's see what we're going to get from the break-off shot there. Wilson is ready to get the second frame underway. Just waiting for the command by the referee. And we'll be going for the table number 1. Hopefully a bit more of the action from the Warrior and the world number 2 as he tries to get himself a parity in this last 16 match with Chang Bingyu. So Wilson is going to be given a green light now for him to get this frame started, and needs a good break off, and ideally, of course, will be very sort of patient with his safety play now, you would think, especially with him paying the price for a major misjudgment in the previous frame. The decent break-off shot manages to sort of cover up all of those reds not being in open play, and that way Chang can try and go for those reds to be taken into each other and onto the left corner. He manages to play those ones with a way that didn't get any of those reds into open play, but still managed to get the cue ball over the baulk line and, well, I should say under it. Gets the green with a minor contact as well. So Wilson usually would be able to go for the long shot. Now, is he going to try and go for it now? Because it does seem to be the shot that he's going for. And in the end, it was a bit of an illusion. He was going for the red next to it and just trying to set himself up for a nice little safety shot. And he's managed to do that nicely. I think he manages to put all the pressure over to Chang Bingyu now. And his opponent has to probably settle for playing a cushion first shot now. He's got his hand in his mouth because he certainly has to be going through a thinking process now. Because, well, ideally, as I say, 2 cushion escape, get the edge of the red and get the cue ball onto the top part of the table. Don't really want to see him rolling the cue ball onto the main bunch because a minor pace misjudgment and he can catch the wrong red, and that's exactly what I think he's done. And, well, I did say don't play that shot there because he could have caught that red, and yeah, he certainly has done that. So it is going to be a perfect chance given away to Wilson. He's going to go for the cue ball to be sent on for the black here. And of course, in contrast to the previous frame, he's not going to have any difficult reds to try and make his way through earlier in the frame. But we have to ensure that we see the best form of Kyren Wilson now, because that's probably what he's going to take there for him to have a comfortable display against Chang Bingyu, winning a couple of frames on the bounce with Matthew Seltz and Weezer getting started on the table next to us. And, well, as I say, probably not disrespect to Kyren Wilson, but I would actually put Weezer as a higher favourite to win this tournament in comparison and in contrast to Kyren Wilson, for the simple reason of, you know, there's a couple of factors to it, but the main one has to be the fact of Wilson just hasn't really been getting the grips to the couple of cues that he's had. Of course, I have to sort one of them out, and switching over to new piece of equipment can actually take you a bit of time to adjust to, and this break could actually be a nice little sign if he has managed to take that adjustment period over to great piece of execution there. So for now it is 3 reds, 3 blacks. So we have seen an early attempt from Mark Selby there, where he managed to get 13 reds and 13 blacks, and in the end was stopped on the penultimate red for a 147 challenge. It was a brilliant effort there by Selby. Let's see if it is going to be a nice response from Kyren Wilson's point of view, because, as I say, he's managed to play a really decent, well, a really good safety shot, which got Chang Bingyu into that trouble, and still don't think that he should have played anywhere near as bad of a safety shot as he has there, Chang, but probably equals the horror of a safety shot that we've seen from Wilson in the opening frame. Now then, are we going to see Wilson trying to go into those bunch of reds right now? He's going to try and wait for a couple of more shots though. So 4 reds, 4 blacks, 32 points is the advantage, so almost halfway onto being over the line in the second frame. Now just trying to make a couple of more of those reds available to him, but in the end, thinking against that, and he's going to be very close to the black right now, so don't really see the way that he's going to get those reds to be split up perfectly. Yeah, he's going to be aiming for a mighty little shot in terms of power. This could be the one that defines the frame, and well, as I say, I couldn't really see him getting really deep onto the reds and getting into them with a lot of power. And in the end, it does look like, unless there's a red which you can try and pot into the green pocket. I mean, there's one more that has gone closer to the sort of left corner pocket as well. Of course, that one is not really going to have a chance of going for the black there. But I think at this stage for Wilson, it's just all about trying to keep himself on the break And he does seem to go for this red now onto the left corner. Has to make this one in. And also needs a good position on the blue. Has he managed to get the red in? He has. Now he's gone over the blue. I think he compromised himself slightly by not getting the red onto the heart of the pocket. And, yeah, was very close to missing that shot, actually. But in the end, manages to get himself set up for the green to be taken. So, still with a great chance now of having the parity restored. Going into the third frame with it being all square in between the two players. Still has to do a bit of work, though. Getting another green onto the yellow pocket now. So just having a look to see if he's going to have a short selection of this red to be taken into the left middle. I think he can try and go for it now. But of course it will depend on if he can try and stun for the pink to be taken into the left corner. Or has to settle for the black to be taken. And just sending the cue ball the long way around. I don't think he's going to be happy with the positional shot that he's played there, by the way. Because, you know, he's 45 points up there on Chang. But he's certainly not over the line at this stage. And he needs a good shot now of the black. Plays his shot with topspin and just about gets the black in. He's still going to have the position on the red though. So he's managed to recover to some sort of extent. And the second break of 50 plus there from the two players. The previous one resulted in a brilliant century break. And a total clearance of a 1-2-5 there from Chang. And in the end, Wilson last second there before clearly going for the red with a bit of power, bailing out and just choking his cue for one more time. Maybe he wasn't happy with the way that he was set up. And of course he could put you off there, and he did. Well, whether it did put him off or not, it certainly cost him taking the pot into the right corner. Never a good sign there to see the player bailing out like that last second. And yeah, he knew that. He missed that one as soon as he hit that red. And it's not going to be one happy warrior going back to his chair. And back to Chang and girls. 52 points is going to be a healthy advantage there for Wilson, but it's not going to be the one that gets him over the line without sort of further challenge from Chang, with still 91 points being left out on the table. He can still try and get himself lined up for a nice safety battle. Doesn't want to leave any of one of those reds open though, and that's one way to do it. Covering the entire right-hand side of the table, and being very close to snookering Wilson and putting him into the world of trouble there. And the cue ball pulled up sort of a couple of inches closer to the cue ball, to the yellow, I should say. Now then, Wilson, is he going to be able to get to the left-hand side of those main bunch of reds there? And gets one of them to be away from the pack, and well, I think it is actually going to be close enough to the blue for it not to be available. And it all comes down to if Chang wants to go for the red closer to the right corner. He wants to try and take that red away there from Wilson. Maybe go for an attacking approach. As I say, I don't really think that, especially if he wants the cue ball to be sent to the right part of the table. I don't think he wants that red anywhere near the pocket. And he was all about just trying to eliminate it and put it closer to the side cushion. In the end, he wasn't feeling like going for a long shot at that time. So clearly feeling like he doesn't have to go for a desperation shot just yet. And or, of course, he feels like Wilson will give him an easier chance for him to try and take and get himself a nice little chance of actually stealing another frame from Wilson. You can barely call the previous one a steal. But of course, the opening chance that Wilson has had, he wasn't able to convert that one. And once again, the safety being far from ideal from Wilson. And, well, I think he's going to be quite lucky with the brown coming to his rescue and covering the part of the red, which, you know, had Chang Bingyu been able to see that one, the red would have probably disappeared into the left middle. Instead, he has to try and find an alternative route for him to try and find a safety shot. And, I mean, in this situation, it probably wouldn't be the worst case scenario for him to just try and go for one of those long shots. Because probably not at this stage, because the only one that he's got is going to have to be diagonal. And pretty much 1.5 lengths of the table out there for him to cover. Still being very close to having that shot pretty much not possible and not worth taking on, for the simple reason of, you know, if you have that front jaw of the left corner pocket coming so quick at you. Pretty much sort of impossible for you to cue that one so well that you don't leave any of one of those easier ends away to your opponent, and also you get yourself positioned on the expensive colour, which of course it is going to be all about. Because if you go for a very difficult red on and you don't get yourself in the colour position, you've just gone for an absolute waste of an opportunity. And yeah, Chang Bingyu in the end, he was probably caught in two minds. He was trying to find a good safety there to respond to Wilson, but he wasn't able to do so. Now then, Kyren has got another chance of going for the shred into the right middle, and he manages to take this one nicely. So then, 53 points advantage, only a couple of reds away from being over the line in the second frame. And as I said, as I mentioned previously, restoring the parity here, trying to get himself into that third frame with still with a chance of repeating this same scoreline as he had against the outgoing and Pang Jingsu previously. Making it 3 out of 3 there of the Chinese players. Now then, just having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for this blue to be taken into the right middle. And plays a shot with a bit of topspin there for him. And yeah, lovely little shot there for him, because it looked like he got on the wrong side of the blue first, but in the end he managed to recover from the second time of asking, and now gets the cue ball for the diagonal shot onto the left corner. And that way he can try and have himself set up for a frame ball on the black or pink being available. As I say, I think he has to be any colour other than yellow for him to be over the line. So he settles for the pink to be taken onto the left middle. Still having a couple of those reds being available there to him. Plays a shot on the backspin side on the pink. And 71 points ahead, 67 remaining. So from the second time of asking, it is going to be Wilson taking the second frame away there from Chang. And still going to have a nice little chance there of battling for the quarterfinal spot. I think we're going to be right for saying is, if you talk about the ranking event, I think we've seen Wilson in the quarterfinals twice there, and he lost out on both occasions. Once again, as I say, one of them was against Ronnie at the Saudi Arabia Masters. I think the other one was against Jack, which was the winner at the Northern Ireland Open at that time. Now then, 51 points on the table. Nice little shot taken there. Once again there by Wilson. So, on the break of, I don't know why it says 86 points. It should be 31 points. Let me fix that real quick. There we go. And yeah, it's all about just trying to get himself lined up for a bit of a form to try and take into the third frame. Now going for this blue to be taken into the green pocket. And well, now it's having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for this red to be taken as a double shot. And well, he's tried to. In the end, that's not going to be the case. And the breaks of 40 and 52 points going to get Kyren Wilson over the line. And onto the third frame we go, with nothing to separate the two players. Chang Bingyu had a lovely little century break in the opening frame, and Kyren Wilson was able to respond with two breaks of 52 and 40 points for him to be back level. And on terms there with Chang Bingyu. I don't actually think the pair have met once in between each other. Let's have a quick look at that. Yep, certainly. So, never they had to face off against each other, but ultimately, listen, nice response from Kyren. Yes, but he does need to make sure that he's not going to be able to sort of get that frame, get the better of him. And the reason why I'm saying that, he still wasn't perfect. And the couple of positional play misjudgments, you know, it wasn't as slick, as smooth as we've seen from Chang in the opening frame, where he was a lovely little century break. But I think Kyren will know that better than anyone. You know, he's going to have a very difficult shot off going for trying to restore that sort of semi-final appearance at the non-ranking event, invitational event of the Champion of Champions, and that win of Shanghai Masters earlier this season. But as I say, apart from that, when it comes to ranking events, he wasn't really brilliant that much, because that Lisalski lost out in the Northern Ireland Open. Also was playing horribly wrong at that time, but I guess Ronnie O'Sullivan was really, really close to getting over the line at Saudi Masters, but it wasn't quite meant to be at the end. And, well, another thing that you have to think about was the last 16 match against Sean Murphy at the China Grand Prix, where the only 6 points when he managed to score was the last shot from Murphy, and that was the foul shot, of course. So, pretty much doing similar sort of thing that we've seen Naponson Khan perform today against Mark Selby. Maybe we'll see a competitive match today after all. Well, I think you're always going to struggle to see that when it's going to be, such a short formatted match. Because if you look at the previous sort of draw from yesterday, you have to say, so for now we've had 4-1, 4-0 with Chipchayunu and Naponson Khan being the 2 tie players to lose out. Then we had a decider, which has actually seen the reigning champion knocked out. Then we had Wu Yize destroy his compatriot from China. Matthew Sell do the same. Elias Lesser. Yeah, as I say, if you talk about the opening 15 matches, there wasn't one which has actually gone over 5 frames. So it's 4-1, 4-0, 4-1, 4-0, and that's perfectly fine. That's why I'm still surprised that they're still keeping this format for their Home Nation series, because it's very difficult for the player that wasn't able to get himself started well. And especially if the opponent against you is playing really, really well, it's always going to be difficult for you to try and turn the page on that and try and have a performance and sort of regroup and restart. And that century made out of nothing. And Wilson was still able to make the breaks of 52 and 40 points, but as I say, still has to be careful of not giving any of those easy chances away to Chang Bingyu, because as we've seen previously, when he does do that, will be very difficult for that to be the case. And for Wilson to try and overcome another frame deficit if Chang needs to win the 3rd or 4 frames. Now then, Wilson can have a go for this raid there after the break-off shot wasn't perfect there from Chang, but he refuses it for the time being. So just tries to get the cue ball closer to the jaws, but not close enough. Getting a nice little kiss of the brown to guide the cue ball onto the ball cushion. So nice little shot there played by Kyren. And Chang once again just having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for those reds to be taken into the right corner. I think he can try and push one of them onto the left side cushion instead for a safety battle. And yeah, he cannon the cue ball onto that red and therefore managed to get the black into play. It's a nice little shot there for him. This is a good stream, as long as it's on mute. Well, lovely little comment there. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, Wilson can try and go for this red now. And what a lovely little long shot that is from Wilson. Now, is he going to be lucky in terms of getting on the positional shot there for the collar? I don't think at this stage he managed to get all that luck there, but it was a brilliant little long shot by Kyren Wilson. Now then, are we going to see a little bit of a backspin shot on the cue ball? And this blue can disappear into the yellow pocket. And he took that one with conviction. Lovely little shot once again there from Wilson. 6 points is going to be the advantage for Kyren. And of course, has managed to get chances in each of those frames. The opening frame has actually seen him with a break of 14 points. Now, if Chang loses, I've no respect. Well, come on then. We're not going to talk about that, are we? Because as far as I'm aware, Chang Bingyu never had any sort of allegations to himself over match fixing. Don't actually think that he was in that match fixing scandal featuring 10 players from China, because he was way too young for that. People forget that he's only sort of 20 years of age there, Chang Bingyu, and he's still very much up and coming star. Now then, it is going to be another very important shot there for Wilson to try and make his way through. Now, is he going to be on this red into the left corner? Well, with his body language, the reaction probably doesn't suggest that. And he's going to try and settle for this red to be taken into the yellow pocket. I think he can try and just stun the cue ball for it to be lined up for one of the ball colours. Now then, put a bit of topspin on the cue ball. Try and make his way off 2 cushions, but makes the red missable, of course. And that was always going to be the issue. When you try and add so much topspin on this cue ball, you're always going to have a problem of actually getting the red into the yellow pocket. And now then, a 12-point advantage, so very much similar to the thing that we've seen from Chang Bingyu in the opening frame, where he managed to turn that 14 points of a deficit into 111 points of a gap there to his opponent and produce a lovely little century break. Now then, let's have a little look at what we're going to see from Chang Bingyu. He's got a couple of those reds available to be taken into the left middle. I think he can try and have a couple more of those onto the left corner. Just having a look to see if he's going to be able to get himself lined up for the black here, because, as I say, the previous miss from Wilson cannoned the blue out of the way, and pink and black are going to be compromised as well. So, don't really like to see players making their way through the bold colours, because that's just so easy for them to try and lose the cue ball on the way through. Now then, he's going to be able to get this pink onto the left corner. That's going to make his life a lot easier there. A little stun shot for this pink to be taken. Now then, 11 points is going to be the advantage for Chang Bingyu before he can manage to sort of... I mean, if he gets into the difficult reds first, that way he gets a couple of them out of the way. He can try and re-establish the pink on the black spot for the time being, and then he can try and make significant break building skills to be developed right now. For now, though, get the red in. 2 cushion escape for the cue ball. Want it as close to the pink as possible, and played a lovely little shot there. So once again, Chang Bingyu trying to get this pink into the right corner, and he's going to have a chance of getting this cue ball onto that red and having himself a shot onto the left corner. Now then, has to play this one with perfect control on the cue ball's point of view, and once again, I mean, that has got the flashback of the first frame all over the place, because that is a brilliant shot there by Chang, because it probably is the shot that could be the frame winning shot there ideally, because of the number of reds that he's managed to get himself onto the open play right now. 2 points advantage, and still having, what is it now, 6 reds available. If he manages to get a couple of them out of the way first, he's going to have a couple more available. So then, I think you can try and re-establish the black onto the blue spot right now, with the pink being the one that he's currently taking the black spot. And Chang just letting the referee know which rest that he actually wants him to get him out for. And seeing the funny side of it, both of them. So just trying to go for this black now into the left corner. That way, as I say, it gives him a bit more of a short selection. Because if he has this red to be taken into the right middle, that way he's going to have the perfect control of the cue ball once again for the positional play. So stun the cue ball. Nice shot, nicely played. And with the way that he had this angle on the red to be taken into the right middle, it could actually be taken brilliantly onto the black. And that way he has a little combination of taking 2 reds with 2 blacks. Although the black is currently sitting on the blue spot for the time being. But I think Bingyu will, well, take that at this stage, as I say, especially with the position that he sort of received from Kyren Wilson, with it being such a difficult one for him to start off with. You know, having that pink eliminated and onto the black spot was a nice little bonus at that stage. And well, now has to try and re-establish himself as the winning force once again there, Kyren, but he wasn't able to do so in third frame. And as I say, I mean, that sort of lack of him being clinical in the previous frame has actually caught up with him. But, well, talk about being clinical, that's exactly what Chang Bingyu has managed to make a mistake on. He was trying to sort of slow the cue ball down before he was trying to send it into the main bunch of reds. That way, it was always going to be difficult to spread those out in the way that would have been perfect there for the Chinese player. And now 18 points is the advantage. So, similar to the one that Kyren Wilson has had of a gap in his advantage in the previous frame. Now it is going to be Chang Bingyu just have a little kiss on the red and leave Kyren Wilson with a potential chance of getting that cue ball away and onto the top part of the table. Now then, if it is going to be taking this red onto the left side cushion, I think you can try and get the cue ball for the green pocket or so. Doesn't really want to touch the green though, because that's going to leave a long shot chance. And he caught the green there, Wilson, but he caught it in the way that he might actually be able to get away with this one. Because I don't think Chang is going to be able to see enough of that red that he needs for him to try and pot it into the left corner. Of course, only time will tell if that is the case. Chang is having a good look at this one. And in the end, probably has to settle for going for a safety shot. And we are going to see a third safety battle and maybe a third chance for one of those players to finally take it away from their opponent and get themselves lined up with a 2-1 lead going into the fourth frame. For now, though, it is a good shot there from Bingyu's point of view in terms of getting the reds away from the pocket, but slightly too much power on the cue ball. Let's see if that's going to cost him dearly, because if Wilson finds a way for the cue ball to be sent into that corridor, past the bank and onto the top part of the table, he can turn this into a bit of a shot to nothing, where he doesn't lose anything. But yeah, as I say, that was always going to be the case only if he managed to pass the pink. And he got away with one with Wilson because he caught the pink, he missed the red, and nearly left an easy red away into the right middle. And you can see the reaction on his face. He knew that one. He missed it by a long mile. And he's very lucky not to leave anything easy away to Chang Bingyu. I think Chang is still probably going to try and go for this red to be taken into the green pocket, but it could have been a lot easier of a shot there for him. But it's still a piece of brilliance there from Chang, and he's going to get himself into chance number 2 for this frame. And once again, he's going to have the yellow transition for the cue ball to be sent onto the lower part of the table. Has to miss the blue, and that's probably why he's gone for the brown. So instead, didn't actually trust himself to be so close to the blue there and still make the cue ball way down the table. So once again, I think 23 points advantage for Chang. He's going to have to try and make this position work there with colours. 24 right now as it stands. He can try and take this pink to be taken into the right corner. That way, plays the shot with a bit of power on the cue ball's perspective. And maybe cannon a couple of more of those reds out of the way. He doesn't seem to be happy with the way that he's landed on those reds, so he's always going to have the red into the left corner. But maybe he was looking for one onto the right part of the table as well. And you probably can see why that is the case, because he's not going to be happy with the way that the black and the pink are going to be set up so close to each other, and ultimately probably being in the way of each other as well. So then, if Chang goes for this red to be taken into the left corner, he has to make his way onto the top part of the table. That way he needs a big bounce of the black belt cushion, and I think he's managed to get it to a reasonable extent. Still, ideally, wants to be dropping the cue ball for the lower part of the table, and I think that's going to be possible if he plays this shot with a lot of right-hand spin and get the cue ball lined up for the lower part of the table. And well, he was always going to be trying to send the black onto the front jaw of the pocket, and manages to drop this one in with a minor wobble in the jaw for the black. It should be one of the probably last shots that it is actually going to be any sort of difficulty there from Chang, because 39 points of advantage there for Chang. He's going to be able to get himself established as a 46 points of a lead. So now gets the black into the right corner pocket. He's going to have this red available onto the right corner or left middle. He can try and choose from, and in the end, going for a topspin shot. Clearly committing to go for a shot into the left middle. I think he slightly overplayed this one, and kind of have the cue ball slightly further away from the red. That way he makes the cut slightly more difficult, but he still should be able to cope with it. 67 points on the table as it stands, but as he removes one of those reds nicely away from the table and onto the left middle, 47 points advantage. So black and a red combination should get Chang Bingyu over the line and get himself set up for a perfect frame once again there. Of course, for the second time of asking this time, and of course not going to be a century at this stage, but at the end, with when you're up against the world number 2, when you're up against sort of a place in the quarterfinal being up for grabs, you don't really care the way you win. It's all about the final result for you to trying to get over the line. And getting this black into the right corner now then. 54 points is the advantage. I mean, I'm surprised that he's gone for this red to be taken along the side cushion, because could have had an easier frame ball there set up for himself. So technically still not over the line. 2 of those reds are in open play. 1 of them on the side cushion. Still needs to get the red in. And perfectly, well, nicely executed there from Chang Bingyu, because that was a difficult shot there. Probably slightly more difficult than he would have liked it to be, especially with it being frame ball. But it is going to be Kyren Wilson once again spending the majority of the frame time in his chair. And 2-1 of a cushion for Chang Bingyu to try and hold on to yet again. And Wilson has to try and, well, make correct decisions there and make correct adjustments to his game, because from what we've seen so far, he has been slightly rusty there. And the performance that we've seen against Peng Jung-soo and Yao Gong still probably hasn't actually kicked in to place here. I think Chang can try and go for this red to be taken into the right corner, but that way he's going to have the cue ball to be sent to the top part of the table. So still keeps his hopes for high break alive there, and certainly people in the crowd enjoyed that one. 46 points of a break, 35 on the table after that red, so still got a nice little chance of, well, taking another point away there from Kyren Wilson as he gets the brown in. He was trying to get 1 more red into the open play. In the end, probably wasn't the case at that time. And, well, has to go for another red. Trying to breach over the one that he's managed to get in open play right now. If he gets this one in, he's going to have a great chance of making a total clearance, but not to be this time around. And it's going to be the break of 50 points there for him to try and finish the 3rd frame with. It is now Kyren Wilson 1, Chang Bingyu 2, going into the 4th frame. And, well, Kyren still has to try and battle his way back into this match. And in the meantime, Chang Bingyu does seem to be like he's absolutely unfazed by the opposition player. And he's here to try and play his own game. He certainly was able to do that in the 3rd and the 1st frames. Now then, let's see if he's going to be able to take it away for a couple of more frames against Kyren Wilson. And in the meantime, of course, you've got Matthew Selt and Wu Yize battling away there for the 2nd frame. For now then, it does look like it is going to be 1-1 going into frame number 3, although Selt is trying to find a couple of snookers that he currently needs for him to have a chance of having that 2-0 cushion up against Wu Yize. So we've got 2 players from England and 2 players from China being up against each other. And very much in the mix there. If you look at the draw point of view, you have to say that Mark Selby, as I say, for him being the 1st quarter-finalist, you've got Jiang John as the 2nd one. You've got Mark Allen and Zhang Anda. Obviously, you've got the matchup of Wu Yize, Matthew Selt, and Chang Bingyu and Kyren Wilson. But with us losing so many of those high-rated players before the tournament has actually started, you have to say, managed to keep some of them to the top part of the stage. We're still going to have Yuan Tijun and Chris Wakelin and Stuart Bingham and Joey Long. So we're going to have 4 players from England facing 4 players from China in the last 16 matches. And of course, that goes without saying that we're still going to have an English derby of Zach Doherty and Joe O'Connor, Mark Allen and Zhang Anda, and the beating of Mark Selby and Jiang Zhong for them to be the first 2 confirmed quarter-finalist of the Scottish Open in 2025. Now then, ideally, we want to see a reaction from Wilson once again there. I've said it in the 2nd frame, but now, as he gets himself a frame down one more time, he needs to try and respond with winning at least a frame on the board once again, and sort of take it into 2 frames each there before we reach the 5th frame for us to witness a great decider in between those 2 players. Now then, Wilson once again ready to go for a break-off shot this time around. So let's see if he's going to be able to try and make this one slightly better than what we've seen in the previous one, because he was very close and very lucky, actually, not to give a long shot away there to Chang Bingyu. And at this stage, he has to try and improve his overall game, well, realistically, because he can't really specify one of those points being brilliant there for him. You know, his long shot game has probably been decent, but apart from that, positional play has been struggling on the majority of those occasions. Recovery play hasn't actually been that good either. But him going for some of those risky pot success shots and still missing on a couple of them. He was doing that in the opening and the 3rd frame. And well, the opening frame only needed 1 invitation for Chang Bingyu. The 3rd one is actually needed a couple of them. But the result was the same there. Wilson losing out on 2 of those of the opening 3 frames. Right, then let's see if Chang is going to be able to go for this red to be taken into the left corner. He has to try and place this one with a trace of backspin, really, because, I mean, if he wants to get himself lined up for the pink, ideally, he wants to go for another shot there. But it's a lovely little long shot there by Chang Bingyu. It's an absolute cracker of a long shot for him. And he manages to re-establish himself exactly where he left off in the previous frame. And you certainly can't put that to a mistake from Kyren Wilson. You have to put that to a pure moment of brilliance from the Chinese world number 70. And I'll tell you what, if he's going to play like that, he's not going to stay the world number 70 for long, because he is going to be a real contender for some of those, you know, late qualified titles. Of course, he's going to feature in the German Masters. Going to feature at the Welsh Open, of course, as well. And he's still trying to battle out for the quarter-final stage of the 3rd Home Nation Series tournament this season. Now, that has a very important shot up ahead of him now, trying to get on the next colour. And I thought he was going to try and go for the pink there. That's why he said he was going to have a very important shot, trying to get that pink spot free of any reds. But he decided just to try and play that shot with a bit of left spin and try and get the cue ball lined up for this blue to be taken into the left middle. Now then, I mean, once again, he wants to try and hold the cue ball back for this red to be taken, but also has to be very mindful of the fact that he's not going to be perfect on this black into the left corner. So has to potentially try and make his way back for the blue one more time. And that's exactly the sort of shot that he's taking on right now. And he clearly committed for going for the split off the black. And he's managed to take this one really nicely. Of course, the minor problem being that he's put one of those reds that he could have potentially used as an 8-point cushion there to his opponent, with it taking both the red and the black. But in the end, he gets the black in the perfect situation there, being back on his spot and not going to have any of those reds, well, anywhere near it, really. That way, you're going to have this red to be taken onto the right corner. Plays this shot with a bit of topspin once again there from Chang. And he can try and get the red onto the right corner once again there. I mean, I think he would have liked himself to be with slightly more of an angle there on the black, because that way, I think he's going to struggle to make the next positional shot work there for him, in terms of getting that cannon onto the reds the way he wants to. And well, in the end, it's a decent effort, and as long as he's not going to have any of those reds in the way of each other, he's going to have the red into the left middle. Now then, is that going to be the case? Because I think one of the reds has gone quite close to being in the way of another of those reds. And Chang Bingyu just having a look to see if he has to go for another approach. As I say, he's not going to have a shot into the right middle because of the angle that he's going to face with that. And, well, once again, thinking about it, he can try and go for the same red that he could have gone for into the left middle instead. He can try and take it into the yellow pocket now. But that way, he has to ensure that the cue ball placement is going to be absolutely nailed on perfect. I mean, there's another option there, of course, for him to try and go for that red into the yellow pocket, but for another one, it's a decent effort. And he was so close that he was going to cannon the cue ball onto that red, and nearly leaving that one on there for Wilson. In the end, it is going to be the break of 27 points for Chang Bingyu to try and hold on to. And you feel like he probably has gone for, well, one risky shot too many there. Wilson still has to go for this red now to be taken onto the yellow pocket, you feel like. Well, unless he wants to go for the long shot onto the right corner. As I say, none of those shots are going to be perfect. But you can't really get the cue ball into the safe zone, apart from if you're going to cannon that red away from the main sort of territory of the ball line and the ball cushion area. So let's see what the decision is going to be from Wilson there. I think he's just going to try and cannon the red full ball and get the cue ball to be lined up for the lower part of the table. Got that red quite close to the right corner pocket as well on his way down the table. But he was always going to focus purely on the control from the cue ball's point of view. And he's managed to play the shot nicely. Now then back to Chang he goes. Very much an important frame there for both of the players, whichever way you look at it, because if Wilson manages to take this frame away from Wilson, he's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on his opponent, and that way he's going to have to win 3 frames on the bounce there, Wilson, which, as I say, his current form, I can't really see that being the case, especially when you take into account the kind of a position that he's going to be up against. And if Wilson finally manages to re-establish the parity for the second time, after sort of going a frame down twice already, managed to recover once. See if he's going to be able to do it twice in a row though. He's still going to have a decent chance there for Chang to actually take it away from Kyren. Right then, let's have a look to see if Kyren is going to be able to see enough of those reds on the right hand side for the cue ball to travel towards them and bounce back onto the top part of the table instead. It doesn't seem to be the case there from Kyren's face expression, and he probably has to try and settle for the cue ball to be sent to the top part of the table. But, I mean, that's going to be an issue there for him, because unless he tries to get the cue ball lined up for the black ball cushion, but he has to make this shot absolutely perfectly on there, otherwise he's going to be in the world of trouble. And that's exactly what he's tried. I mean, it's a risky shot there, because he is basically willingly giving a shot away along the black ball cushion there for Chang Bingyu, and that's exactly what Chang is going to be looking at. I think ideally Wilson would have liked to see the cue ball away from the black ball cushion, well, by a couple of more centimeters out there. Well then, let's have a look what his decision is going to be made there. Chang probably feels like it is going to be too much of a temptation for him to go for this shot and just try and have one of those reds to be used to get the cue ball onto the top part of the table and have himself lined up for another safety battle to resume. Now then, he can try and go for this red onto the sort of green pocket or in around, of course, with no intention to pot it. And that's it. That is actually what he's done. But ideally, once again, he would have liked to see the cue ball closest to the ball cushion. And yeah, Wilson just having a look to see if he's going to be able to sort of get through to the edge of that red. Try and play maybe with a cross double attempt. Try and get the cue ball to bounce away from the black ball cushion and onto the top part of the table himself. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be the case for now. And Wilson going for all the options that he's got there, of course. He wants to stay in this match for as long as he can. And ideally, he wants to stay in this match as the winning force, which is not going to be the case as long as he's down the frame on Chang Bingyu now. So going for this red now. And let's see what is actually going to be the approach that he's taken on. Is it going to be the attempt of a cross double? Or is he going to try and pot it? I mean, I feel like he's actually tried to pot it, but he's still played a really good safety shot with him having the cue ball to be covered up by the black. For him not to be sort of going for this red into the left middle. Now then, Chang just having a look to see if he's going to be able to see any one of those reds onto the left part of the table. And, well, I mean, he's having a good look at this red. Very close to it. Abdullah say hello. Now then Chang can try and do a similar sort of shot that we've seen from Kyren previously. And just try and get one of those reds for the lower part of the table. And just have the cue ball for the ball cushion to be resting on. Once again, played nicely. And ideally, Chang would have liked to see that plant not given away there to Wilson, because even though his goal's nowhere near the pocket, still he's going to be in with a great chance there if Wilson manages to get the cue ball onto the top part of the table without touching any more of those reds. And, ooh, I mean, barely catching one of those reds on the side. And let's see if he's left the same red away there to Chang, because he wasn't able to sort of make the contact on the plant and make the adjustment enough there for him to drop this red onto the right corner. Now then, it is going to be a nice little chance for Chang, because it's not going to have the same red available to him that Wilson has cannoned onto, but he's going to have another invitation there away to him. This one is closest to the right side cushion for the time being, and it is going to be a difficult shot, and basically has the red to jump out of the pocket and, well, that certainly is going to be unlucky there for him, because that's going to finish pretty much over the right middle. And that's going to be the way there for Wilson to try and get himself back into this match and back in this frame for the time being. Being 27 points down at this stage probably is not going to matter at all. But, oh my word, I mean, if you're going to miss reds like that, you may as well not bother, because I don't really understand what was that all about. Once again, Wilson just doesn't seem to settle in this match at all. But, I mean, what on earth? What's that? No reaction there for him, but that's going to be irrelevant, because you don't really need a reaction there from the professional. Missing such a sitter there from Wilson, and surely that's going to be the point for Chang to try and build even more confidence. Don't think he was lacking in that aspect anyway. Now he's got a shot which is going to be a lot more difficult there for him onto the left corner, but takes this one brilliantly and with great conviction out there. So once again, just having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for this pink. And, well, at this stage, you have to say, if Wilson is going to keep missing shots like that, 4-1 is going to be possible once again to be the scoreline. And this time it's not going to be in favour of the high-seeded player in the world number 2. As I say, he had the prime chance to get himself to restore the parity for the second time. But in the end, instead of a draw, he's very likely to go 3-1 down right now. Because even if he doesn't, he's not going to get a better chance than he had of going for that red onto the right middle. Yes, you probably have to argue that it was a bit awkward for him trying to hold the cue ball for the blue. But the way that he caught the sort of the wrong jaw of the pocket anyway for that to be the case, because he was underrunning for the blue that way. And as I say, that's still not going to be a valid enough of excuse for him to be missing a shot like that for a professional snooker player, let alone the world number 2. Now then, 40 points is the advantage here for Chang. He's going to be able to get himself a break of 40 points easily now with the reds that he's got available to himself, and that is going to get him over the line here against Wilson, and it will be 3-1 of a gap for him to try and hold on to. And as I say, that will leave Wilson with a requirement of having to win 3 frames on the bounce there for him to be the quarterfinalist number 3. Unless the match of Weezer and Matthew Selt. And before this one, now then, it is Chang just having a look to see if he's going to go for this black to be taken onto the left corner. I think he can just try and drop the red in behind, sort of drop the cue ball in behind that red, but of course the black is going to be in the way. And wow, he plays a lovely little shot there for him, because he manages to get one of those reds away from the black ball cushion and into the open play. And the kiss that he got on that, he's going to make sure that he's going to have one more red taken nicely onto the right corner pocket. That was, as I say, just gaining and closing in on the finish line in this frame. 49 points of advantage, so 83 at the table for now. So 2 more reds and 3 more blacks should actually get him over the line here as he takes the first one in. So 56 points of advantage. So if he takes 2 reds away, it is going to be 67 points on the table. So yeah, 4 shots needed there for Chang for him to be having a 3-1 of a cushion to try and hold on to against Kyren Wilson, because he doesn't really have the brilliant record against Wilson this season, because he has lost out to Kyren Wilson previously in a dramatic brown ball decider. Oh, he lost control there of the cue ball, and I think, well, he certainly wouldn't expect him to go for this sort of a cut into the right corner, but I mean, what on earth happened there? He had a straightforward red to be taken onto the right corner, and he just completely lost the way of the cue ball. Now then, is he going to try and make this one into the left middle? But as I say, if he misses it, he's going to leave the room wide open there for Wilson, and well, he gets this one in there, so it all comes down to this red to be taken, and then the position on the black should be there, and well, you can see that no reaction at all from Wilson, but he knows that his best chance of winning this frame has already gone from him. Now he's all down to his opponent trying to make the most out of his situation. Only needs the red and a colour combination, but this red is not quite on the cushion, and we all know that these shots can actually be quite tricky there for you to make most out of. But lovely little shot, perfectly taken once again there from Chang Bingyu, and surely now, as long as he takes the black, it is only going to be 1 more frame needed there for the Chinese sensation, and he's going to be, well, certainly for me, apart from Jiang Zhong there, the lowest ranking quarterfinalist this season so far, especially if you talk about the ranking events. You can't really have that on the invitational events because you're going to have majority of the players being the top 16 anyway. Chang losing control of the cue ball slightly and just praying for it to slow down, but I don't think he realises that it's not going to matter for him in terms of taking this frame away from Wilson. And if he was worried that about a century break, then, well, maybe he's just not to be there for him. He can still try and cut this black in, but that way you'll have a long way for the cue ball to travel. And he manages to recover nicely there. And once again, he has got the experience of getting a difficult black into the left corner because of course, remember the brilliant maximum finish that he had against Stephen Maguire. Now then, 80 points. He's going to be on the line there for him. 54 for the break. And even without this black, he's still going to have 51 on the table. So, second century incoming potentially. Probably more likely to be the case than not to be the case at this stage, especially if he gets the black in, with him still being slightly out of position after having to play a very difficult sequence of recovery shots previously. Manages to re-establish himself in prime control of this position, and surely now just 10 shots or so, and he is going to be making a second century in this match. And once again, I mean, I did say that Wilson it didn't even look sloppy. He just looked like he wasn't going to be enough of a challenger there to the form that Chang Bingyu has produced in the opening frame. But apart from those two breaks of 52 and 40 points, we haven't seen anything from Kyren Wilson up to these points. We've seen the breaks of 12 and 14 points, which I don't think you can be proud of as a professional snooker player. And right now it is going to be Chang Bingyu trying to have a bit of a history for himself there. Weezer onto the left corner trying to maybe see the way his compatriots do it. Very rarely you see, by the way, camera work doing such thing there of going back to players that he's currently sitting on the other table. But must be a reason for it. Now then, another red is taken. And it all comes down to the black being taken right now. And he's going to have the best possible chance of going for this century break here. And goes for the yellow. Right now, as he's on 111. So makes that 130 in terms of the points that he's managed to score in the entire frame. And of course, the break is going to be 86 points for the time being. So he's going to need the sequence of green, brown. So that's going to get him on 7 points. So he's still going to need the pink for the century break. But as I say, with all colours being on their spots, I don't actually think there's going to be any more of an issue than just the matter of time there for Chang. As he manages to get the brown in, so lines up for the blue one more time. And the break of 98 points, being very much within his grasp there. And having the cue ball to bounce away from the black ball cushion. And with enough power, going to have the perfect setup for the pink to be taken. Slightly overplayed that one with too much power, but it's not going to matter at all. And it should be another century break being made wonderfully and in style by Chang Bingyu. This guy is absolutely on fire, and very rarely you see century breaks being made, well, twice in such short formatted matches, especially by a single player, because, informally, because you can only make 4 of those, because when you make a century break, of course, you win a frame, and you can't win any more than 4 frames, and such a short formatted style of matches. Right then, it is going to be Chang Bingyu with a 3-1 lead against Kyren Wilson. And let's see if Kyren is going to be able to last for at least one more frame there. Because the previous one, he's managed to lose out by not scoring any of those points, despite having all the chances there that you would normally expect a professional snooker player to be able to get him on top of. Now then, let's have a look how the match of Weezer and Matthew Selt is actually progressing. In the meantime, and he's still on the 3rd frame. Matthew Selt currently trying to dominate that one and put Weezer into all sorts of trouble there. 58 points is the difference in between the two players. And Weezer is actually the player that is trying to get himself out of a snooker situation. As he manages to do it right now. 58 points with 67 on the table. And it's going to be difficult there for him to try and, sort of take that frame away from himself. But, you know, if you think that's difficult, then Kyren Wilson's job of getting 3 frames on the bounce against Chang Bingyu is going to be impossible now. And, well, probably it is actually going to be impossible because, as I say, this good old rule of if you're not up and running very quickly at such short formatted matches, then you're never going to be really, because by the time you are, your opponent will be into the quarter-final stage. And that does seem to be the case for Kyren Wilson now, because, you know, he managed to take 2 decent breaks there of 52 and 40 points in the second frame, but the response from Chang Bingyu actually being the breaks of 60 points, then the break of 125 points in the opening frame, of course, and then the break of 104 points in frame number 4 out there. So then just waiting for Wilson to come back, and then we are going to be. He's maybe, I spoke too soon about it being competitive. Well, listen, it's, as I say, you very rarely see matches going the distance for the simple reason of it is only first to 4. So you're always going to have more chance of players going the distance when it's 6-5 because there's more frames to be won. So you can't win the match first to 6 whilst you have a brilliant run and you still win 4 frames on the bounce, because you're going to need to find that consistency, and you're going to have to do it in more than one spell, because first to 4 matches you can do it in sort of a blink of an eye. You know, you can have an hour, sometimes you can have less than that. You're not really going to have that in first to 6 matches. So that's, to me, that's why they're more competitive, and that's why they're more enjoyable to watch for the fans as well. Got our usual Kyren today. Unfortunately, still doesn't seem like he's going to be able to get his way out of that struggle with the equipment. And, well, as I say, I think the positive signs have actually been there in his match against Gao Young and Pang Jung-soo, but if the positive signs were there, they certainly were left out there as well. And it doesn't seem to have them right here, right now against Chang Bingyu, but this lad does seem to be playing the snooker of his life now. Seems to be so much unbothered about everything that's going on. 23 years of age, as I say. And does look a lot younger than that, though. And still already had a brilliant campaign at the Saudi Arabia Masters for him to reach the last 16 at that time. And to be 1 frame away from reaching the quarter-final. Once again, he finds himself 1 frame away there. Of course, it was 2 frames up on Ronnie O'Sullivan at that time. And he was asking Ronnie to win 3 frames on the bounce, which Ronnie said, thank you very much, I will take that offer. And become the eventual runner-up to Neil Robertson. Don't think Chang Bingyu is going to have the same thing on his mind now, because even though you have to say that, you know, it wasn't particularly good performance from Chang at that time, O'Sullivan was playing well, funnily enough, at the Saudi Arabia Masters, and was really, really playing well in those 3 last frames. Don't actually think we've seen anything like that away from Kyren Wilson. Let's see if he's going to have one last chance to put that struggle behind him. And once again, we'll talk about struggles. The timing could not have been better. Missing that red onto the right middle is absolutely unacceptable for the player of his caliber. So still, does seem to be a bit of a delay there for us to be getting the 5th frame to get started. Still waiting for Kyren to come back onto the arena. And when we do, Chang Bingyu will be looking to try and make this one surely the last frame of this last 16 match, and for him to be confirmed as the second player from China to be participating in the quarterfinals of the Scottish Open in 2025. Now then, Kyren makes his way back onto the arena. So let's get, well, another frame started. Not sure about the party started, because ideally, if you want the party started, you need Kyren Wilson to start playing well. And doesn't seem to be the case so far today. Now then, can we have one more good break off there from Chang Bingyu? He has to try and take it 1 chance at a time. He was very quick to get up from that shot, which usually is going to be a sign from players not being happy with the way they've taken that shot. And in the end, I think the main approach for him was going to be not leaving any of those easy reds away to Wilson. And he's managed to fulfill that task successfully out there. Now then, let's have a look if he's going to have a chance of going for the cue ball to be sent onto the lower part of the table there with Wilson. And maybe go for a long shot as well. Let's see if he's going to try and make this one. Well, he did try. And is he going to try and drop the cue ball as well? Of course, he didn't try and do that. But he nearly did. And with the cue ball and a ball in hand out there for Chang Bingyu, surely would have been a disaster beginning for the 5th frame for Kyren Wilson. Chang now looking to try and put that red back down on the table once again. And, well, thinking about it before, and in the end probably deciding to put a couple of more of those reds to the top part of the table. And, yeah, I mean, yeah, played the shot really well. Thought he was going to underrun on the pace there for the cue ball, but had enough there of an injection for the cue ball to travel just about far enough for Wilson not to be able to see any one of those reds available onto the right corner. And onto the right middle, I should say. And in the end, Wilson was sort of happy for him to just try and roll the cue ball away onto the main bunch of reds. Now then, having a look to see if Chang is going to be able to put at least one of them closer to the side cushion. And put the cue ball away onto the black ball cushion once again. Gives the turn back to Kyren. And something that we have seen quite a few times throughout this matchup. Players trading opportunities there with each other, but also having quite lengthy off safety battles previously. Well then, just as I mentioned, lengthy safety battles. Are we going to have a chance here given away to Chang Bingyu now, because he's got 2 reds close to the right and left middle respectively. And Wilson clearly was trying to back up on the fact of him having the cue ball in behind the black. And, well, it does actually seem like it's worked out perfectly for him, because a couple of millimeters to the left or the right, and Chang would have had at least one of those reds available. In the end, that doesn't seem to be the case. So just try and get really deep onto the cue ball one more time. And, well, if he was thinking about going for the red onto the right middle, I'd say probably not from this angle, and probably just bide your time a bit more. You can clearly feel like, with the tension and the body language of Kyren, that he's trying to force this one too much. And the way for you to try and deal with it is to be patient yourself. And that way, your opponent would give you, well, will certainly gift yourself a couple of easy chances there, as we've seen in all 3 of the frames that Chang Bingyu has managed to take. And in the end, he was just trying to play a safety shot away, but he hasn't got the good traction there on the cue ball. Clearly, he was trying to have the white a lot closer to the black ball cushion, and in the end, it does look like Wilson is going to be able to have at least one more chance there for him to try and drop this red onto the right middle. And of course, you never know what's going to happen, and especially if Wilson is going to be able to put some pressure on his opponent, it is going to be a bit of a struggling time there for Chang. And the way for you to actually try and start producing that performance is to get this red into the right middle, and he managed to do that, Kyren. Nice little shot there by Wilson, and now then try and make his way through a couple of easy reds onto the bulk cushion and onto the bulk area for now. Until he's going to have a transition shot there for the cue ball to be sent onto the lower part of the table, and try and have the main point scored through the pink and black combinations, taken with those reds. Now then, once again, going for a little bit of a sort of shot on the backspin there for the cue ball. You can try and stun this one for the brown to be taken if he wants to, but in the end, he decided to try and get the cue ball lined up for this pink to be taken. But, well, no man's land once again there from Kyren, and may have to consider going for the green onto the yellow pocket, but that's not going to be ideal either. So at this stage, probably have to go for the pink to be taken onto the right middle, because that way you're going to have at least the right way of travelling there for the cue ball. I don't think he's going to try and make the way of the cue ball throughout the entire table, and plays the shot really nicely, to be fair. You know, he's got the perfect positional play on the red and still rolls the pink into the right middle without touching any of those jaws. And, well, 12, 14 and 12 points does seem to be a bit of a bad habit there for Wilson, because so far it was breaks of 40 points, 52 points, and anything less than that, he's gone on to lose the frame there. Now then, gets himself lined up for the black to be taken onto the right corner. Let's see if he's going to be able to try and play the cue ball through the shot, get himself lined up for the red onto the opposite side of the table. And, well, a little bit of a stun work there for the cue ball. Nice little shot, to be fair. Nice then. Well, 20 points the advantage. Just looking to see if he's going to have any more of those reds available after he takes this red out of the game. And that's exactly what he's looking at. To see if there's going to be a plant available for him. And there does seem to be one. But you're still going to have a bit of distance in between those two reds. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Kyren is actually going to be able to put all the struggles behind him and try and dominate the remaining 3 frames, which probably is going to be the requirement for him if he wants to be the winner of this match. And get himself booked in as the 3rd quarter finalist. Now then, having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for this black with the rest shot, making this shot slightly more difficult there for him. And doesn't want to touch the front jaw too much. And he caught that one just about, well, with very little contact, to be fair, and still manages to get himself lined up for this plant to be taken. But ideally, would have liked the cue ball to travel a couple of centimeters further, because this way he's going to have to try and make this shot very much accurate there for himself. Manages to get the red in. Is he going to be on the pink nicely? He will be. But, I mean, I say he will be. He's going to have a nice position on the pink if you didn't have to worry about the red's position. But where are you getting the next red from? If you're going to go for the black, it's not going to make your life any easier. Unless you're going to go for a massive shot on the backspin. And, I mean, he has got the required angle for it. And, well, realistically, I can't really see any other way of going for the black and trying to hammer the cue ball into those 5 reds being so close to each other, because I don't think any one of them is actually going to be possible there for Kyren. And, well, he got the black in, but I don't think he's going to be on the red now. So, unless he's got one into the left middle, but once again, a brief body language and a shake of the head there from Kyren probably suggests that he doesn't have that option to himself. And, well, the breaks are 40, 52 and 36 now. Going to be his 3 highest in the matchup now. So you do feel like probably he's going to be in that sort of a mood where he doesn't have an easy chance. He'll go for a difficult one. And if he is to miss that one, then so be it. Just once again, just having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for this red to be taken into the left middle. And play it with touch of right hand spin there for him. To try and have himself set up for the blue. As well, in the end, he refuses his shot. So, I have to admire that, to be fair, because it wasn't easy. Clearly, it was a very difficult decision there, but it was a difficult decision. It wasn't a difficult shot to play on, and he still didn't manage to miss the yellow there with the cue ball. So, cannons the whites onto the cheapest colour, and that could be a potential chance given away here to Chang Bingyu one more time for him to be taking the red onto the right corner. So, he can try and study the position with probably not being the perfect one, especially for you to try and make a comeback. You know, Chang Bingyu is going to need all of those reds at this stage. And there's a handful few of those, which are going to be positioned very close to the side cushion right now. So has to make his way. Future champion, well, let's see if that's going to be the case. He does seem like he's not 23 to me when you look at him, but of course, being born in 2002 is already having such a brilliant maximum, and getting to a decider with Ronnie O'Sullivan trying to beat Kyren Wilson right now. And, well, it's a lovely little shot that he's tried to play, and, well, he certainly got the execution right. Now then, are we going to see some chaos on the table? Because he put all of his baskets in, sort of all of his eggs in one basket there of trying to get the cue ball lined up in behind the green perfectly, so that Wilson wouldn't see any of those reds. And in the end, he has put quite a few of them over the right corner pocket. And as I say, Wilson has got absolutely no chance of getting through to that red directly. So if he wants to cause some chaos on the table, attention 6 pockets, that's fine. But as I say, if he misses that one and he leaves that red over the right corner, even if he doesn't leave that red over the right corner pocket, the way that the remaining sort of 10 reds have actually spread themselves out on the table, he's not going to have a good chance of getting the cue ball into a safe manner, especially if he's going to lose control of it. And it does seem to be looking to go for a response for a safety play, using that red on the right side cushion and trying to get the cue ball in behind the green and yellow combination. Let's see if he's going to be able to do that. As I say, if he doesn't, he's going to leave that red on there for Chang Bingyu, and with that red, all the chances of going for a match-winning break. And don't really understand what Wilson was trying to do, whether he was going for a double or not. And in the end, he's not going to have any sort of backup in terms of having that red and the cue ball to be separated by the colour. And Chang Bingyu has a clear way and a clear path to dropping this red into the right corner. Right then, I think he has got slightly lucky there, Wilson, in terms of he managed to make the black unplayable into both left and right corner pocket. But Chang Bingyu is able to get himself lined up perfectly for the pink for the time being. And now then, he needs around 70 points there to be scored from 107 being left out on the table. And he should be away into the quarter-final appearance of a ranking event, probably for the first time in his career. Certainly the first time that I can think of. He had a couple of good campaigns previously. As I say, Saudi Masters probably the most recent one that comes to mind. But he still has a break of 70 points or so for him to try and make. Right then, is he going to have this black available? Because he does seem to be playing for it into the left corner. And if he does, then it's a massive milestone out of the way there for Chang Bingyu. And that's going to boost his chances massively as well. He gets the cue ball to bounce away from the black ball cushion just about enough there to get that gap down to just 21 points. And Chang just having one more look to see if he's going to be able to drop the red onto the left corner and play the white with a touch of topspin once again there to try and get around the black, which is exactly what he's done. So in terms of the reds that he's got now, he's got 3 reds in super easy play and he's got 4 more reds in probably varying from very difficult to difficult places there for him. So now 13 points is the deficit. So as I say, if he gets the 3 easy reds in with sort of expensive colours, that's going to be 20 points or so. That's going to put him 7 points ahead there of Kyren. And that way he can chill. I still think he can try and drop this red along the black ball cushion. Don't think he's going to be trying to play for it right now though, because he's going to have the angle on the black for the cue ball to be sent to the top part of the table. Maybe getting one of those reds away from the side cushion and closer to the right middle. But has to play the shot in such a way that he's still going to have a backup option to his name in case of not having the red that he's going to try and get away from the side cushion available to himself. And, well, it doesn't seem to try and invent anything for now. Just focus on the easy pots for the time being. As I say, get those 3 reds with the expensive colours. Maybe with a black 3 times there. That's going to get you set up nicely for some sort of lead there against Kyren Wilson. And he's going to spread those 4 reds evenly between each other because, you know, when Wilson had that 36 points of a cushion, you knew that Chang Bingyu was going to need all of those reds. But with Chang Bingyu being the leading player right now, Wilson is going to need all of those reds just as much as Chang will for him to be the winner of this frame. For now, though, Bingyu wants to go for this red along the black ball cushion to be taken right now. And does seem to be one of those difficult shots there that he will seem. And, well, he manages to play it with absolutely no worries and no pressure at all. Of course, that's going to take 8 points away from the table and potentially can extend his deficit of his opponent to 8 more points there. If it is to be taken with the black, which does seem to be an opportunity there for Chang. A minor angle, though, for the cue ball to be sent to the top part of the table, which is going to have the last available red, or sort of still being close to the left middle. So then let's see if he's going to try and cannon one of those reds away from the side cushion. He does manage to do that. And now does he have enough of this red that he can see for him to just try and drop this red in? It's not going to be easy at all. But it's probably Yeah, I'm not going to say that he's going to guarantee him the win in this match because, as I say, he's still going to have the requirement and the need for the last two reds still being in that horrible position for the time being. That's going to keep his chances alive there, and that doesn't seem to be the case there. I mean, it was a difficult shot that he was taking on, but I actually thought that he was going to make this one stick there. And Wilson, he's going to come back to the table, at least for one more time. Didn't think that that was going to be the case, especially with Chang getting through some of the difficult reds at first, getting that red on the black ball cushion eliminated quickly. Now then, Wilson still needs all of those reds to be taken away there, and probably will need some of the cheap colours as well there for the 6-colour clearance, before he's going to be able to guarantee himself at least one more frame there to be a member of, and for him to be involved at. Cannons one of those reds nicely and onto the top part of the table. For the time being, it does look like it's all going to come down to that last red being close to the side cushion onto the left corner of the table. But it also does seem like Chang Bingyu has missed the boat there in getting over the line in the first time of asking, and actually thought that was going to be his best chance there, because when you're 3-1 up, you've had Kyren Wilson not playing well for 2 frames now, probably 3 frames if you count this one as well, and you give him that not free chance but such a cheap chance away. And well, Wilson, I hope he wasn't playing for the blue there, because if he was, he's going to be in the world of trouble there. But he does seem to be confidently going for the shot of the green now into the green pocket, so into the yellow pocket I should say. Now then, he wants to have the perfect angle on the shred there for himself, and I do think it's not perfect, but it's not bad either. Wilson establishing himself as the player in front now, although it being for a single point for the time being. Now then, try and drop the cue ball onto the right hand side of the table, try and get in behind the black or something, and give himself a chance to drop the cue ball onto that red. Doesn't want to be straight on this one, and I mean, from this angle it does seem like he is going to be very straight for that one. Yeah, Wilson is going to know that. It's not going to do the job for him. And I don't actually think that he's going to be one of the players that wants to have another safety battle. You know, he's 2 points away from his opponent for the time being, but of course with 35 still being at the table, it's not going to mean anything at all there, with the 6 colours all being in play. Blue-brown being slightly away from their spots, and yellow being closer to its own pocket. Well, maybe Wilson is going to try and go for the double right now. Maybe he feels like this is going to be his best chance of taking this frame away from Chang. Well, maybe he's going to try and get himself set up for a safety shot, but I think if it was a safety shot, he'd have himself set up for a different position there. He's going to try and go for the double, surely. He has. Now, has he got this one in? I think he has. Ooh, he missed out on by an absolute fraction of a millimetre out there. You thought that he was going to cannon its way off the jaw and into the pocket, but in the end, ooh, that is about as close as you're ever going to get there of getting the double in. And I think if he played that on with slightest bit of power less, he would have been able to drop the red in, but once again, that's going to be if buts and maybes. 9-point advantage, although still for Kyren Wilson. The first shot is going to be important there for Chang, especially if he manages to snooker Wilson here, and he has managed to do it. So then, let's see which Wilson we're going to see there. Is he going to be aggressive approach? He will be aggressive approach, and this red is going to be very close to the green pocket, and he has left this on there. Surely Wilson, he has left this on there. He has put the pink somewhat safe though onto the side cushion. At this stage, I think Chang will need this pink. And he's going to do the maths right now, because he's going to be 9 points behind. So I don't actually think it matters if he's going to take a very expensive colour right now. He's going to take a very cheap one, because he's not going to need the black whatever happens, because he's only 9 points behind. And even if he gets this red with the black, he's still going to need the pink. And oh, he got himself into a bit of a problem now, because he's not going to have a perfect positional play on either one of the colours. I still think he can try and drop the yellow in with the rest shot, and try and play the yellow twice in a row there, getting the brown slightly out of position as well. maybe going for the green instead. That way you'll be 5 points behind. So as I say, pink for the match ball there for Chang. But it's not going to be ideal there for him. As I say, for now the brown, the blue and the pink all going to be heavily off their spots there. And making their way through this little sequence of colours is going to be a challenge there for Chang. And not even going to talk about the green that he has to get onto its own pocket and get himself lined up for the yellow. But it's the first real test that he's managed to pass with a star there. Brilliant shot by Chang Bingyu, and wonderful little positional play as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cushions. And he's perfectly, well, probably just about as perfect as he could have been, setting himself up for this yellow to be taken. Now then, I think he's overrun slightly for this green, but maybe he was trying to do that on purpose for the simple reason of, if he was trying to get this angle on the cue ball to be set up for the white to travel down the table and have the brown to be possible onto the left middle. Now then, let's have a look what we're actually going to see there from Chang, because he's still a favourite for this frame, especially with him being at the table right now and still with a chance of potentially, of course, producing a clearance, which will get him over the line. Unlikely at this stage, but still possible. Now gets the green in. Is he going to have enough power on the cue ball? He needs it to run further and further and further. And he's going to be straight, but that's probably not going to be enough there for him to have the sequence of brown and blue and pink all potted at the same time. But at least he's still on the brown, and he has got a chance to play for the blue. That way he can try and turn it into a pink ball battle and leave Wilson needing both pink and black at this stage. Referee having a look at the scoreboard himself. And Chang having a look there. Of course, we've been here before. Chang Bingyu against Wilson. Because it was Gary at that time on the brown for the match. Didn't manage to get the brown at that time. And, well, he clearly is trying to find his way onto a setup for this pink. But in the end, I think he's going to sacrifice the position on the blue here. And that's going to put him into a bit of trouble there. Because this way, I mean, you're going to have Kyren Wilson needing the black for a guaranteed win in this frame as it stands. Because if he gets the pink and the blue in, he guarantees himself a respot. So I don't really understand what Chang was trying to do there. Because surely, just try and stun the cue ball off that brown. He was able to go for the blue onto the green pocket. Instead, he can't really go for the blue right now. And I mean, he can try. I can see what he's suggesting there. He can try and go for this blue to be taken onto the right corner and sort of have the cue ball to be left out in the zone off. Just trying to have it in behind the line of the pink, but caught the pink on the way in. So that's going to be a suggestion that he missed the shot by a mile. 4 points advantage there for Chang Bingyu, and it is going to be a blue ball battle. So Wilson needs all three of them for their win in the frame. Needs the pink and the blue combination for the respot, and Chang Bingyu needs a combination of the pink and the blue for him to be the winner of this frame and the match. And well, straight away Wilson doesn't seem to be happy with the way he's played the shot, and he's left the blue not on the plate there for Chang Bingyu, but as a chance for a long shot. Well, I mean, it could be a blessing in disguise there for Wilson, because for me there's not really a way for Chang to get the blue and have the position on their pink. And therefore, it just makes the blue a bit redundant there. It's not going to change things in Wilson's favour. Apart from just guaranteeing himself a respot. But it gives Chang Bingyu a chance of having this shot of the pink. Now, is he going to have a nice little traction for the cue ball to reach the pink? Well, this could be the shot of the tournament. And it's just going to depend on the outcome of this shot now. Is he going to be able to go for this pink and take it into the right corner? But this is an absolute cracker. The way he's played that one with so much power. And he's not perfect on the pink at all. But once again, it all comes down to just one more shot there for you to be over the line. And if he loses his frame there, Chang could be in trouble there, because Wilson is one of those players that is able to thrive off your opponent's mistakes. And he's going to be able to re-establish himself back as the winning force. Now then, just compose yourself for one more time. He's been brilliant so far with the rest. And he's been brilliant once again out there. And you can see the fist bump and the brilliant reaction there from Chang Bingyu. And Kyren Wilson can't wait to get himself out of here. And you can understand why, once again, the world champion of a couple of seasons ago is going to find himself on the losing end of things. But it is Chang Bingyu that is going to be the winner. And what a win it has been. Brilliant style there. 2 centuries. The breaks of 50 plus on every single one of the frames that he's managed to win. And in the end, it wasn't the day there for Kyren Wilson. Let's hope that he's going to be back in the second part of the season. And he's going to be leaving trophyless at the ranking events of the season of 2025-2026. Let's see if he's going to be back at the Masters or the German Masters. Now then, we are going to go over to the quarterfinal stage tomorrow. But for now then, thank you very much for everyone tuned in. And we'll speak to you tomorrow for the quarterfinal clash featuring Mark Selby and potentially Chang Bingyu as well. Yet to figure out the schedule, but thank you very much for joining in once again, as I say. And we'll speak to you tomorrow for the quarterfinal stage at the Scottish Open of 2025. Speak to you soon.